What's up, everybody? You're very welcome along to this evening's show. There is lots for us to get through in the build-up ahead of the Reds' trip to Ellen Road to take on Leeds United on Monday, which of course we will be covering here on the channel. We've got transfer rumours to get through. We want to talk starting 11s. We want to talk about the situation going on with our attacking players and why they keep being linked with moves away. There's loads for us to get through, folks, and I hope that you're all in fine fettle because the weekend has started. It is officially Friday, and you know, good weather out there, at least where I am anyway, and I'm sure most of the UK and that are probably, UK is usually a bit warmer than over here in Ireland, so you know, nice weekend to be out in the garden, perhaps chilling, relaxing, getting ready for the summer, and you know, counting down to the game. It's always a long weekend, isn't it, when your team isn't playing till Monday night. And I'm going to be on later on, by the way, doing a watch along of the Everton Spurs game on Mundo Sport from about 7:45, so if any of you guys are around, want to jump over to there, I'll be jumping straight on when I finish this stream. I'm kind of split on the Mane situation to Matthew Lynch, and that seems Matthew Lynch, excuse me, mate. That seems as good a place as any to start off. But before we do get straight into the Sadio Mane, Ousmane Dembele conversation, I want to just take a second to talk about something that I forgot to talk about actually on last night's stream. And that is the breaking of the Real Madrid bus team window, or team bus window, I should say. And look, I don't care where you're from. This isn't an anti-local brigade. This is us Liverpool fans calling out to other people, wherever you're from, to not act that way. There's no place in our fan base for thugs. There's no place for people smashing bus windows. There's no place for people doing that. By all means, we want an intimidating atmosphere. And during these COVID times, you've got to be extremely careful meeting in large groups and stuff like that. But we don't want people within our own fan base who are going to drag down the good name of the club and drag the name of the club down by smashing windows, throwing bottles and stuff at team buses that are coming to Anfield to play. I mean, we often talk about the club way and doing things in the right way and the Liverpool way, whether that be about managers, whether that be about players that comes into the club. But surely the same has to apply to our fan base. And, you know, it's easy for people to try and defend them and say, no, they weren't Liverpool fans, they were other clubs. Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, there were people from the area or people that came into the area, and we need to stamp this shit out. So if you are at one of the bus welcomes or anything like that and you see people acting in that way, well, you've got a duty as a Liverpool fan to stand up and make sure that they're reported and make sure that this type of behaviour doesn't get condoned. Because while we do want it to be intimidating atmosphere, of course, for teams coming to Anfield, and you know, the bus welcomes are brilliant and they're things of folklore, and you see them other clubs copying around Europe now as well. These things, you know, all besmirch the club when it gets to a point where another bus window is getting smashed. And quite frankly, it's not the image that you want to see Liverpool Football Club's fans painted with. And I hope that we don't see another repeat of it, because it was bad enough when it happened to Manchester City's team bus. Now, of course, it happened again against Real Madrid, and there's just no place for it in our fan base. We want to be singing, we want to be screaming, we want to be backing the boys, we want to be supporting the club however you support the club, but there's no place for that. We speak about racism, we speak about homophobia, xenophobia, all these other type of things, but we've got to look after our own house and get it in order as well. So I was very, very disappointed to see that bus window got broke. It's not a great look for the football club, and the football club again having to come out and apologise to another opposition team that comes to Anfield, and it's not great. I mean, we condone other fans for doing things. It's only fair we call our own out as well during these times, and I was very disappointed to see that happen. I'm sure you guys were as well. But look, we'll move on and we'll have a little chat around the situation that I'm sure you're probably wondering what this stream title tonight is about. Well, it comes from an article. Let me just pull up the article here on the screen. Let me just drag this over. Right, so the article says this. They're talking about, I think it comes from Sport Witness, and they're saying that Liverpool could potentially sell on Sadio Mane this summer and look to replace him with Ousmane Dembele. So they talk about the player, and they say the 29-year-old's days at Anfield are numbered for a couple of reasons. First one, he has offers from several major teams. I don't know how true that is. I mean, if he has offers, then surely Liverpool are going to have offers, because if someone's talking to Sadio Mane or his representatives, then surely the club will want to know about that. But we move on from that one anyway. And then it goes on to say that his form has disappointed Jurgen Klopp. Look, his form hasn't been his best form, but there are mitigating factors for that. He did have COVID, and like many other players playing throughout the league and playing around Europe, he is physically and mentally exhausted after playing football without a break for a really long time as well. So take that into account. Then they go on to say the Merseyside club already identified Barcelona winger Ousmane Dembele as an ideal candidate to replace Sadio Mane. Now, I don't know if this is lazy journalism, because we've seen Ousmane Dembele linked with Liverpool probably on 3 or 4 transfer windows, pretty much ever since he's gone to Barcelona. But where it does get a little bit interesting is the fact that, and I wasn't aware of this at the time, that Ousmane Dembele is going into the last year of his Barcelona contract. Now, does that mean that perhaps there's a bargain to be had there? Because, Barca are struggling for cash. We know that right now. Will they want to sell Ousmane Dembele this summer and try and recoup some money instead of maybe letting him go for free next summer? Can they talk him into signing a new deal? Could they offer him the money that he wanted? But that's all by the by, really, because the real factor here is, are Liverpool going to look to sell Sadio Mane? Because whatever else you think about the article, that's the main point that I think we should be talking about here. We approached Mohamed Salah's situation yesterday. I recorded a video on the Mohamed Salah stuff, and that's going to be going out in the next couple of days. But we had a vote yesterday in our live chat, and it seemed to be if, and it's a big if, we had to move on one of the front three. If we had to break up the front three, who would it be? And it was torn between Firmino and Mane. I think mainly towards Firmino, if I'm being honest. I think I've probably seen a few more Firminos than Manes in the chat, but I'd be wary about the Dembele one. There's no doubt that the guy is an incredibly talented footballer. His body was broken down a little bit during his time at Barcelona, and there has been reports of him having some personal issues, shall we say, or some attitude problems. But with a young footballer, that's often the case. You're surrounded by yes men your entire life. You get a big move, and maybe you do think you're Billy Big Bollocks. I don't know Ousmane Dembele well enough to know if that's the case. But it's an intriguing one, and like anything else, it is just gossip at this moment in time, because we don't know if any of our front three are going to move on. We don't know if we'll have Champions League football to offer these players next season. We don't know how much our transfer budget is going to be, what players Klopp has identified, and you're going to see so many stories, and some of them absolutely unrealistic. And the only thing that makes this semi-plausible for me, and I'm going to push aside the Mane stuff, because I don't know about the Mane situation. I don't know if Liverpool are going to look to cash in on him or not. I really don't. But it does get a bit interesting when you look at the Dembele side of it, and you look at the fact that he's only got 1 year left at the end of this year in his contract. Now, if you could pick up somebody like him for the same price you could pick up, I don't know, a Neto, a Rafinha, you've got to consider it as an option. You really do, because there's no denying the guy has a load of talent. He hasn't unleashed that fully yet at Barcelona for a mix of reasons, but nobody can deny that the guy has pace to burn and he has skill. So I'll leave it with you guys whether you think it's a legitimate transfer story or not, but it's one that certainly caught my attention when I was talking about, or when I was reading up, earlier on. My nan's got bunions. How are you, mate? Do you think we could do a swap deal? I mean, in this, how do I answer this? Let's play hypotheticals here. So, if Liverpool were willing or looking to move on Sadio Mane, it's a big if, because I don't know. Maybe if Ousmane Dembele is the player they want, and if Dembele is keen on the move, and if Mane is keen on the move, there's a lot of ifs here. Potentially, but it's not very often that you see them conducted that way. Swap deals. It does happen, and maybe it'll happen a bit more in a post-COVID football world, but I would imagine it's probably a case of, you'll see one player come in for X fee, one player go for X fee. I don't think it would be classed as a trade, if you get me. I don't know if it's better financially for bookkeeping or for accountancy. If that's the case, I haven't got a clue. I'm not an accountant, but I just don't see it being true. Dembele, I mean, there is some sense to it, as I said, with that 1 year left on his deal. Maybe he could be gotten on the cheap, and that may be appealing, but at the expense of a Sadio Mane, somebody who, as I only said yesterday, looks after himself tremendously well, always physically fit, can probably play till his mid to late 30s. I really don't know. I don't know on this one. I really don't. I think there's probably better options out there, but I wouldn't dismiss Dembele entirely. But would he be a good enough like-for-like Mane replacement with the injury record? It would be another gamble, wouldn't it? And we've had players that have come in and our bodies have broken down. Players like Naby Keita, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, and we wouldn't really be wanting to bring in another one, surely. But we'll wait and see what happens on it. There's another link as well that I want to talk to you guys about that I'll bring up in a couple of minutes. Let me just get through some comments. Liverpool are crazy if they replace Mane. I agree. I don't want them to go anywhere, mate. I don't want any of the boys to go anywhere. And I do agree with people that if one of the front three had to go, and I'm talking absolute had to now, not my choice, I would agree with the Firmino stance. Because I do think that you could replace Firmino with Jota in the system and get a similar result, albeit with probably more goals. And I know I'm one of Bobby's biggest fans. I'm one of his biggest defenders as well. I talk about what he brings to the team in so many other ways, but I think it would be a lot easier to replace maybe a Firmino when you've got someone like Jota at the club. So maybe you bring in an attacker who could give you a different option. Maybe that's pace. Maybe that's somebody who plays the attacking midfield role a bit different. I think it'd be a lot harder to replace Sadio Mane and Mohamed Salah than it would Roberto Firmino. Although many people will probably argue with you the exact opposite. But that's why, it's such a difficult decision for us as fans, or a conversation to even had, because we've seen the amazing talent that all three of the boys have. And the reason I say three is because obviously we're not going to look to sell Diogo Jota. I mean, that's off the table. He's just come into the club. Ghost 11 said, I'd love Mane at Chelsea. Don't be greedy, mate. You've got enough there. I mean, we can take Christian Pulisic off your hands if you want. Surely has to be cash value plus Usman. Again, this is all hypothetical. I've got no idea. I mean, with Usman Dembele's transfer situation, you would have to say, Barca paid, what was it, like 135 million euro, 140 million euro, kind of similar fee to they paid for Felipe Coutinho at the time, and it really, both of those transfers have kind of fallen flat in their arse for Barcelona. So how much of that will they be looking to recoup, particularly with just 1 year left on the player's contract? And interestingly, I'm not really seeing his name thrown around that much with other clubs, which, with a player coming into his final year, you would imagine his agent will be out there trying to ramp up interest, if nothing, just to try and get Barcelona to give him an approved contract offer. But we know Barcelona are in financial peril at the minute, so would they maybe look to cash in on Dembele? Is there a deal to be done there? It's interesting. Leroy Sané should go to Liverpool. He just went to Bayern, mate. That's not going to happen. Jota is world class. Jota's class, and the fact that he's 24 years of age shows you that he's still got so much progression still left to go. Hello, I'm Cozzy. How are you, mate? Welcome in. Honestly, I would swap Dembele for Mane as a Barca fan, said Cave. Interesting from a Barca perspective. Sign Neto next, said Ghost11. He's certainly on the list of players who we'd looked at. We spoke about Neto. Obviously, we might get a look at Rafinha on Monday. Himself and Rodrigo are doubts, injury doubts, but Rafinha looks the more likely of the two to be starting on Monday if one of those are going to make it. Bobby stays for me. Mane without pace is not as good as Bobby. I don't know, man, because as I was saying on Monday, or against Real Madrid, on that left hand side, I seen those moments of Sadio Mane doing what nobody else can really do, which is, getting himself out of tight areas and making space down that left hand channel and going past defenders with absolute ease. So I don't know. I mean, we seem to be lacking pace on both wings, which is not something I thought we'd ever be saying, because when we brought Mane and Salah in, they seemed to be like the red arrows. They were absolutely flying everywhere and causing all kinds of havoc. And maybe, as players get older, maybe they do lose that yard of pace. Maybe they become more tactically aware. Maybe Klopp has changed it so much so that, we attack in different ways. Only these guys will know the absolute truth. They'll know their bodies better than us. And Dembele is too injury prone. He certainly has had injuries, I can't deny that. Sign Suarez, no argument for me on that one, on the sign Suarez one. We're not getting Raheem Sterling, you can forget about that. But the Suarez thing, with the fact that he can walk out of Atleti at the end of the season, I would absolutely take Luis Suarez in on a 1 year deal with a year option on it as well. That for me be no problem. I'd take that in a heartbeat. Rafinha for Shaqiri. I don't think that that will be a move that would interest Leeds too much, to be fair, mate. They're going to want to replace him with somebody whose body can stand up to the rigours of the Premier League. And, Shaqiri's been proven to pick up a lot of muscle knocks and strains. So they're not going to want to lose a talisman for them like Rafinha and then replace him with somebody who just won't be as effective and won't have the amount of games in him in a season that Bielsa would want, particularly in that system of the way Bielsa plays. Son would be fantastic. He would be, but I'm not going to lie to you. I've been losing respect for Son bit by bit. His antics and the way Mourinho has him playing, it's just not the same Son that I used to look up to and admire and enjoy watching him play football. It's the way Mourinho's gotten to those players' heads. No. Everything outside of those antics with Son, 100%. I love him as a footballer. Yeah, he's got a great engine, but Harry Kane looks like he's going to try and maybe kick up a bit of a fuss to get out of Spurs this summer. He's got 3 years left on his deal, so he doesn't really have that strong a negotiating point. I don't know who convinced him to sign a 6-year deal when he signed that deal. I mean, that was stupidity from his agent or whoever represents him. To look at Spurs and think that things are going to stay that rosy, Pochettino's going to be there and they're going to go on to... I know it was a brave move from Kane, and it could come back to backfire him or bite him in the ass, because it's going to take a big offer to tempt Daniel Levy and Spurs into selling him, and I don't think they're going to want to entertain trying to sell Son in the same window either. If Pulik was to be sold, what price? It's an interesting question, Lance. I haven't got a clue, mate. I haven't got a clue. But I'm still raging we didn't buy him at the time he was leaving Dortmund. I said it at the time, and I'm going to stand over it. He would have been perfect for us, and I really am baffled why. Well, maybe Chelsea just blew us out of the water, or maybe we'd no genuine interest. I don't know, but he's a Chelsea player, and it still drives me mad to this day. Everton have a big injury. Can you try and, if you're going to try and spell, mate, if you're going to try and come on and have a little dig at Liverpool and talk about Everton, which you don't have a bigger injury list, you absolute clown. At least learn how to spell either the word have or use. So just piss off with your stupidity, mate. Nobody cares what you have to say, because you're just like every other troll, mate. Just a dumb fuck who comes in to try and stir the pot. Cal Cup, mate. Stop with the capital letters. I don't want Grealish. We're not going to sign Grealish. You don't have to worry about that one, mate. There's no way in earth Liverpool are coughing up the money that it would take to get Jack Grealish. There was another interesting article out today, though, that spoke about Liverpool's potential interest in the guy from, what's his name again? Let me just grab up this article here. Correa, yes, Joaquim Correa from Lazio. Now, he has an €80 million release clause in his Lazio contract, but this article to me stinks of a cash-strapped club trying to stir interest in a player by dropping Liverpool's name in, or some article or some journalist or some media outlet close to the club trying to put out a rumour out there that Liverpool are interested in Correa. Look, let me be honest about this. Joaquim Correa is not good enough to play for Liverpool. He played for Sampdoria, then went to Sevilla, and he's now over at Lazio, and he's alright. He's a decent enough player, but there's no way he's worth his release clause of €80 million, and at 26 years of age, doesn't strike me as the type of player that Liverpool would be looking to bring in. Actually, look, I'm going to just say he's just not good enough to come to Liverpool, and it's another one of those articles I think we can safely put onto Bullshit Island as an agent or an agency trying to just ramp up interest in a player because Lazio are strapped for cash and want to cash in. Now, Milinkovic-Savic, that's another one that's been linked to Liverpool recently, and he'd been linked for a long time to Manchester United, but in recent weeks we've started to see a little few pundits first of all comment about it, but as a genuine Yaldum replacement, Milinkovic-Savic, there's something to be said for it. Don't know how much he'd cost, no idea, but I imagine it would be fairly expensive. But if Lazio are as cash strapped as they appear to be, then maybe there's a deal there to be done. But I've not seen any of the local journalists, the Melissa Reddy's, the James Pearce's, the Simon Hughes, the reliables, the unreliables as we like to say. I've not seen any of them really mention his name in any articles or anything yet. But then again, there wasn't much talk of Fabinho or Diogo Jota before that happened either. Is Naby finished at Liverpool after the Madrid away game? It's a very fair point, mate. And as somebody who has defended Naby Keita for a very long time, I think that this is a summer where big decisions will have to be made on Naby Keita, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, Shaqiri. Well, it's not that big a decision on Origi, to be fair. So if we get the money, he's gone. And a few other players, a few other fringe players, Wilson and a couple of others. But yeah, it's a difficult decision, and I would be of the mindset that that Oxlade-Chamberlain would be sold. For me, if the right offer came in, if a West Ham or somebody could tempt Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain with an offer that would be, keep him happy enough, I would understand Liverpool letting him go, because again, we need a squad that can be relied upon. And while Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain seems like a lovely guy and has had some great moments, again, just that consistency hasn't been there. And we need that. Like, we have enough players whose bodies are breaking down. So I would say if we can get the money for him, reluctantly, I would move Oxlade-Chamberlain on. Keita, I still don't know. I mean, like everybody else, I was completely disappointed and disillusioned with that performance against Madrid. I could see why Klopp made the choice to play him, but yeah. Camavinga is somebody who loads of people keep talking to me about. I'm going to keep saying the same thing I've always said. I'll allow you guys to tell me about him because I don't know enough about the guy to give you an opinion. I don't watch enough French football to be able to tell you whether he's good enough or not. But any player linking to us from France always makes me a bit nervous, unless I've seen a lot of them, like somebody like Houssem or somebody like that. So I'll let you guys let me know whether he's good enough or not, because I honestly haven't got a clue. But definitely have seen his name linked. Another name, and this is a move that I think I could see Liverpool going for, as a Gini Wijnaldum replacement. In fact, the more I think about it, the more I think he's probably should be our front runner. And I often talk about not buying from other English teams because you pay over the odds at times. But I think Yves Bissouma is somebody who would fit in rather nicely in our midfield, and was somebody who could absolutely take that Gini Wijnaldum spot. And the more I watch of him, and I've only really started paying attention to him over the last couple of months because we've started to be linked with him, but I'm seeing it all there. I'm seeing the ability to always have a yard or two in midfield, keep the ball moving, an eye for a pass, great protection of the ball, good engine, able to carry the ball forward and break lines at times. I like him. And I really think that, we've often spoken about Brighton, and I've spoken to you guys before about Ben White, but I'd always caveated that by saying that Bissouma was somebody who the club were also tracking, and that for me would be a move that I think would make a lot of sense. I mean, Premier League, tried and tested, impressing under Potter at Brighton, and somebody who I tell you what, I wouldn't mind seeing at Liverpool one bit. I'll be really honest with you. I think he's very good, and I think that he's somebody who we could bring in to replace Gini. Gini's contract offer still seems to be on the table. I think he's on about 85 grand a week, I think the article mentioned earlier on, which sounds quite low for somebody on Gini Wijnaldum's experience, somebody who's won the Champions League, the Premier League, and somebody who's been a mainstay in that Jurgen Klopp starting 11. So I don't know what the improved offer is, but it's a situation of as well, Michael Edwards will look at it from the point of view of he's been brilliant up until now, 29 heading for 30. How many more years can his body maybe withstand the rigours that it has, because he has been almost invincible, Gini Wijnaldum, very, very rarely injured, but we do have this thing as a club that we don't like to give players 30 or heading for 30 that long of a contract. And maybe they'll say, well, at some point Gini's body may start breaking down, and we don't want a situation where we have an Alexis Sanchez or a Mesut Ozil or somebody on pretty high wages who his career is starting to peter down. Now, there's no signs of that at the minute from Gini Wijnaldum, but these are the type of things I suppose Michael Edwards and the recruitment staff will be thinking about when they're making these decisions and putting these offers on the table. Jurgen Klopp said, for me, I'm undecided. I don't know if that's about Bissouma. RSH14 said, Bissouma would be great for us. What are your thoughts of you doing Gomez and VVD are back? Well, I suppose it depends on the lot. Poddy, mate, doesn't it? You would imagine that if they're both fit and available, they'll be the starting pair. Now, if we do sign Ibrahima Konate, and if we do take the option to trigger the £18 million clause in the deal for Ozan Kabak, then, we have a different conversation. But that being said, Kabak will have had time to bed in, so, I still think Gomez starts ahead of him alongside VVD. But the real question is Konate. If Konate does come in, how quickly can he get up to speed with the system that Jurgen Klopp wants him to play? Because we do know that Klopp will not start somebody until he feels, one, they're tactically aware enough, they're fit enough, and they know how to play in Liverpool's system. So that could take some time. So even if they came in, I would still expect, if they're both fit, Gomez and Van Dijk to be the starting pair to start the next season. And then maybe as the season progresses, Konate will get his chance. Kabak still has time to impress Klopp. And I think we've told Schalke we'll let them know by the end of May that if we'll take up that option or not to buy Ozan Kabak. And it is an option. It's not a must do. It's just an option that's in the deal for 18 million. I'd keep Gini. Well, look, we'd all like to keep Gini, mate. I've yet to meet a Liverpool fan who doesn't like to keep him, or who doesn't want to keep him, I should say, excuse me. But I suppose I understand Liverpool's point as well. Like, they've put an offer on the table and they obviously feel that offer is fair for the stage in his career. Gini, of course, is perfectly entitled to look at that offer and say, I don't think it's fair, and I have offers from X, Y and Z. He will have fulfilled his Liverpool contract, which, as I've always said, is all you can ask of a player when he signs. And he's given us many years of great service. So whatever happens in Gini, I'm going to keep saying the same thing. If he decides to leave Liverpool Football Club, from me, and I'm sure from you guys as well, he'll go with a huge thank you, a pat on the back, and best wishes for himself and his family for the rest of his career, because he's been the consummate professional. Where is Tsimikas? Yeah, that's it's been a bit of a hit and miss start, hasn't it, for Tsimikas' career? Obviously, he had COVID as well. He's had some injuries and very, very limited game time. Again, you've got to have the conversation around getting up to speed, and I'm sure that we'll see some more of Tsimikas in the pre-season friendlies and maybe at the start of next season. Or maybe Jurgen Klopp will decide that it wasn't the right move and sell him, but I've not read anything or heard anything to believe that that's the case, so maybe we'll see more Tsimikas over the summer and into the start of next season. Rafinha would be good for Liverpool, said Michael Manning. Yes, and again, another player that's been linked and is probably on the list of players that we're tracking. You have to also ask, would Leeds want to sell their record signing after just one season, and how much would it cost? I mean, I don't think there's many people who have any doubts about Rafinha's ability, and I mean, I seen an article earlier on, I can't remember where I read it on, so I do apologise. It might have been on The Athletic. They were talking about Rafinha and Jota, and they were comparing them, and they seem to have very similar stats on a lot of things, whereas Rafinha has a little bit better ability to pick a pass, and Jota's a little bit better with dribbling. So I can absolutely understand the Rafinha thing, and the more I think about it, I've gone Neto Rafinha, I've gone back and forth, but I think Rafinha's probably the better buy if we were to go and look to bring somebody in, which I'm sure we will. I mean, whatever happens with Mane, Salah and Firmino, I think we're going to move Origi on or freeze him out. I don't know, one or the other. But I do see another forward coming in. I see the centre-back situation being resolved and maybe a midfielder. And after that, a lot could depend on the fringe players and how much money Liverpool can get in, how much wages they can get off the books, and, you know, a few other bits and pieces as well. Predictions for next season. Excuse me. I'm predicting we're going to be in the Champions League. I'm predicting a battle between Manchester City, Liverpool and Chelsea for the Premier League title. United could be thereabouts depending on the business they do this summer as well. I mean, as much as it kills me to say it, they are progressing under Solskjaer. The league table doesn't lie. But yeah, I think Chelsea will certainly be right in the mix next season, and that's before they may even address, a couple of positions this summer. I think we'll be back, with Van Dijk back there, with Henderson back. Hopefully with a couple of new additions, with some players refreshed and ready to go. Crowds back inside Anfield. I think Liverpool will be right back up there challenging, but like everybody else, it petrifies me the thought of Manchester City going down there and signing a Harry Kane or an Erling Haaland. That would scare the shit out of me, I won't lie to you. Thoughts on selling Matip this summer? I'd have no problem selling him, mate, none whatsoever. For me, if you go into next season with, you move on Phillips, let's say, he probably deserves a move for his own career, because he's going to be down the pecking order at Liverpool when everybody else is back, but he'll have done himself no harm whatsoever with the performances he's putting in for us, and I'm so glad that we didn't move him on in January and that he is here. So whatever happens there, you'd expect Phillips to get a move. Now you're looking at a situation where if we get Kanade and if we get Kabak, you've got Kanade, Kabak, Gomez, Van Dijk and then Matip. Now what do you do with Matip? Do you sell him? Do you bring through one of the younger players? Do you get Sepp van den Berg in? Do you give Billy Comedio an opportunity as the fifth choice centre back? Reece Williams, what happens with him? Does he go out on loan? So I think you do need to head into the season with at least 4, probably 5 centre backs to cover yourself, and maybe even if we are to look at switching up the system at some point, maybe going to a 3 at the back so as we don't have to use Fabinho. I would expect that if an offer came in that Liverpool would entertain it, but who's going to be coming in for a recently contract extended Joel Matip with any type of a transfer fee? I don't know, to be honest with you. I think that could be one of those, sign the contract and we could be left to, not rue it because that's not the right word, because when he plays he's quality, but his body is made of, I don't know, wood chip or something. Would I be surprised if Origi stays? I'd be absolutely gobsmacked, mate. Like, he's just not good enough. I think we'll surely all agree on that. And I don't know why, because I think he has the tools to do it. I just think maybe it's in his own head, I don't know. But he's not good enough, and I think if we can recoup 15 million, maybe even 12 million, that Origi will be gone. And I think it's the right thing to do. How about Hummels? No, too old, too slow. I'm doing really good, Dylan. I hope you are as well. Schürrle from Ajax. He did sign a contract extension at Ajax, if my memory is correct. Again, we had been linked with Per Schürrle. He was one of the centre-backs we were linked with in January. But we went for Kabak in the end after not being able to get the Calais Dakar deal over the line. And maybe we revisit that. Maybe we go back to Marseille and look at Calais Dakar. But, you know, from what I've read and been told and spoken to friends about, the Canadi thing is certainly the one that's furthest along. We know what happens with regards to Kabak. That's, you know, it's in our own hands whether we pull the trigger on that deal or not. What about Harvey Barnes? Again, Jake, no problem with the quality of the player from my perspective. You're looking at another English club and an English player and paying a premium. And that's where I think would be a no-no, because Leicester are no mugs in the transfer market. They don't get pushed around. They usually get top dollar for their players. And Harvey Barnes is a good player, but I don't think we'll be paying. That's why I said no to Grealish as well. We just won't pay it. We just won't pay the money that it would cost to get those good English talents out of the clubs. Buy someone cheap. Klopp is always good at developing players. Mane, Salah and Yaldum. Yes, and look, Paul, I've no doubt we will be looking for that value, as Klopp likes to say, in the transfer market. What about Haji? I haven't watched him play at Rangers much, mate. I'm sure that you're talking about the son of the old Haji who's up at playing at Rangers now, and they signed him permanently, I think, if my memory's right, but I haven't watched enough of him to know if he'd be able to can come across and play in the Premier League. Hello, you're a legend. Thank you, James. That's really kind. Can I do a Spurs Everton watch along? I am doing it, mate. I'm going to finish up here in about 5 or 10 minutes, and I'm going to go straight over to our second channel, Mundo Sporto. So if you want to come over and join me for a watch along of the Everton Spurs game, I'll be doing so on our second channel from 7:45. There is a link in the description of the stream, and that's Mundo Sporto flying along. I think it's like 18,300 subscribers since December, which is amazing. Where did I get Dembele for Mane rumour? It's in a few places, mate. Sport Witness, I think it is. I think the Echo have it on their transfer blog as well. It's in a couple of different places, to be honest with you, pal. What about De Ligt? No, not a hope of De Ligt. Not a hope, mate. The wages that he's going to command, that move to Juventus for him was all about one thing and one thing only, and that was a big payday for his agent. And I think it was, I said at the time, I thought it was the wrong move for him. I think he should have stayed at Ajax for another year and then went somewhere else. But no, we won't be signing De Ligt. We don't do many deals with Mino Raiola players. I think he represented what's his face, didn't he? Balotelli, if my memory's correct. But I don't know too many other players off the top of my head that we would go back in to get from him, because he's already talking about making Erling Haaland the first £1 million a week footballer. Ryan Kent, we just sold him to Rangers. We're not going to go back in for Kent. He's gone. How boring, Spurs versus Everton. Then don't watch. No one's asking you to fucking watch it, Brad, mate. If you don't like it, don't come across and watch it. Simple as. It has connotations for us for the top four, right? So that's why I'm watching it. Thoughts on Harvey Elliott? Love the guy. Difficult decision for Klopp to make this summer, whether Harvey Elliott comes back from Blackburn or whether perhaps we look to loan him to a Premier League club. But I've got a feeling again that we'll see him get pre-season, play a few friendlies perhaps, and then Klopp will make the right decision for both the club and for, of course, Harvey Elliott's career. What about signing Ismaila Sarr? We looked at signing him, and I'm not saying that it's off the table completely. Watford going to come back up to the Premier League, by the way, which will make it even more difficult. But we looked at signing him in January, around the same time as Diogo Jota. I think the Pozzi family who own Watford wanted they wanted a high transfer fee, and they wanted most of it up front, which we weren't in a position to do. One of the reasons that we were able to sign Diogo Jota is because we paid, I think, £9.5 million up front, and the remainder of the fee over the course of his 5-year contract. Similar when we signed Thiago, I think it was $5 million up front and $5 million a year for the 4 years of his contract at Liverpool. So Ismaila Sarr would certainly be linked to a couple of clubs. Liverpool probably one of them this summer. But that stance on wanting a lot of the money up front, I don't think that will be palatable for us in this financial climate. What about Taki? Again, another good question, and one that I think I've seen him linked to Sevilla, I think, if my memory's right, in Spain. And I do think that Klopp's probably made the decision that he's too lightweight for the Premier League, and that they made a mistake there, which which will go down if he does move him on as one of the decisions that they got wrong. But looking at 7.25 million for the cost to buy him, I would imagine we'd make a profit, but we probably could have done with him as well at the business end of the season right now. And it was one that kind of made sense and didn't make sense, that loan to Southampton, if you get me, at the same time. We're signing Mbappe. Good man. Good man. I want to get on board that train. There you go. Mbappe's going to Real Madrid. Some people just don't live in the real world. I mean, I'm not saying Mbappe won't go to Real Madrid, but they're already cash strapped. They're spending the guts of 500 million now, redoing the Bernabeu. They've got players aging like Kroos, Modric, Ramos, all on high wages. They've got players like Hazard, who has come in and absolutely flopped so far. So they're going to have to move people on to free up the money to get somebody like an Mbappe. And how they do that without breaking rules, I don't know. But I'm not ruling out the prospect, but I don't think it's a done deal like many others do. I mean, there's no secret that he admires Zinedine Zidane. There's no secret that Zidane and Florentino Perez would love to have him at Real Madrid. And I don't think it's any secret that he wouldn't mind playing for Real. I think I read an article that suggested that in Spain, Madrid would be his destination. In England, the Premier League, Liverpool would be his destination. So, I hope we get a nice surprise, a pleasant surprise, and we're in that conversation. But I wouldn't be surprised if he does end up at Madrid. Pedri or Ricky Puig, I don't think Barca are going to want to sell either of their younger stars, to be honest with you, mate. There's, players like Griezmann and others who probably be higher up the pecking order, and with maybe Messi leaving this summer perhaps, it's going to be an interesting time at Barcelona, and they're in the guts of €1 billion worth of debt as well. Suarez for a season or two, I think one with an option, Hashim, would be what I'd like to see. And it's very rare you'll ever hear me say, yeah, re-sign a player, but I genuinely would take Suarez back, get rid of Origi, bring Suarez in for a year with an option for another one. And that would do me. That would do me rather nicely. Ings is a good shout as well. But you still have the same worries about injury. I know he's gone through a season and had a few little injuries at Southampton, but we all love Danny Ings, and wherever he goes, I do hope he does well and hope that he continues to stay healthy and score goals. But I don't know if Liverpool will take that risk again. Should we get Coutinho back? I feel like I've said no to that about 5 million times now. Why would we want a player who Bayern Munich didn't want, Barcelona don't want, who won't play for the last, 3 months of the season, 2.5 months of the season for an injury? Other people believe it's because of a money thing. Nah, not for me. And again, what is he now, 27, 28 years of age? Suarez would be good for the younger players, like Cavani is for us, says Paul, who's obviously a United fan. And yeah, look, it would be great. Imagine everybody learning a little bit from Suarez. Harvey Elliott, even the players that are there right now. I mean, you look at Diogo Jota. I mean, he could learn a lot from Luis Suarez. Even the established pros like Mane and Salah, they could learn a lot from him as well. And again, he has that winning attitude as well, that never say die attitude that I always admired about him. What else we got? Yeah, you're not getting me to read that comment out there, FIFA mate. Curtis Jones, he's injured at the minute. It remains to be seen if he'll be back and available, and hopefully he's back soon, because I'd like to see him get some minutes. Now, I did record my Leeds preview, by the way, earlier on today, so I don't know if Connor's putting that out tomorrow or Sunday, but I recorded my starting 11 preview, my score prediction. I had a chat with Leon from Boiled Sports as well, so that video is going to be out over the next day or two anyway. And also keep an eye out for, we're doing a run of 4 little videos with Manscaped, and we recorded a very funny, well, at least I think it's very funny, advert for it, so keep an eye out for that popping up on the channel as well. Look, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go over to Mundo Sport now and get set up and ready for that watch along of Everton against Spurs. So if you want to come over and join me for that one, I'll be over there in about 5 or 6 minutes time. As always, tomorrow's going to be my day off actually, so no live content tomorrow. There is going to be a video or two that goes out, as there always is, but tomorrow's my day off, so I'll be back on Sunday with a late night agenda, and then we'll be looking ahead, of course, to the game against Leeds on Monday. So look, if I don't talk to you till Sunday or Monday, have a lovely weekend. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button because we are closing in on 90,000 subscribers. Really appreciate your support. Lots of love to all.